Okay, so before we go on with reading into the end of First Kings, we're going to need to zip back over here to Second Chronicles and read a chapter about Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah. We haven't focused on Judah yet today in our readings because we've been dealing with Elijah and Ahab up in Israel. But now we got to turn attention back to Judah in order to help set the stage for what's going to happen next. This is Second Chronicles, starting at the beginning of chapter 17. Actually, let's start with the last couple of verses of chapter 16. In the 41st year of his reign, Asa died and rested with his fathers. They buried him in the tomb that he had cut out for himself in the city of David. They laid him on a bier covered with spices and various blended perfumes, and they made a huge fire in his honor. That's the end of Asa, king of Judah. Now his son Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat, his son, succeeded him as king and strengthened himself against Israel. Excuse me. He stationed troops in all the fortified cities of Judah and put garrisons in Judah and the towns of Ephraim that his father Asa had captured. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because in his early years, he walked in the ways his father David had followed. He did not consult the Baals, but sought the God of his father and followed his commands rather than the practices of Israel, which by this point in time has followed the Baals, as introduced by Jezebel, wife of Ahab. The Lord established the kingdom under his control, and all Judah brought gifts to Jehoshaphat, so that he had great wealth and honor. His heart was devoted to the ways of the Lord. Furthermore, he removed the high places and the Asherah poles from Judah. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent his officials Ben-Hail, Obadiah, another guy named Obadiah, Zechariah, Nethanel, and Micaiah, to teach in the towns of Judah. With them were certain Levites, Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebediah, Asahel, Shemiramoth, Jehonathan, Adonijah, Tobijah, and Tob-Adonijah, and the priests Eliashama and Jehoram. They taught throughout Judah, taking with them the book of the law of the Lord. They went around into all the towns of Judah and taught the people. This is actually what the Levites and priests were supposed to do. Now, apparently they all had a copy. At this point in time, there were enough copies for each of these traveling groups of preachers to have a copy. Originally, there was only one. Way back in the days of Moses, he wrote one copy and left it with them. Apparently now they have enough written copies, not for everybody in the country to have one, of course, or every family to have one, but for these different sets of traveling teachers to have one. The fear of the Lord fell on all the kingdoms of the land surrounding Judah, so that they did not make war with Jehoshaphat. Some Philistines brought Jehoshaphat gifts and silver as tribute, and the Arabs brought him flocks, 7,700 rams and 7,700 goats. Jehoshaphat became more and more powerful. He built forts and store cities in Judah and had large supplies in the towns of Judah. He also kept experienced fighting men in Jerusalem. Their enrollment by families was as follows. From Judah, commanders of units of 1,000. Adnah the commander with 300,000 fighting men. Next, Jehonan the commander with 280,000. Next, Amasiah son of Zichri, who volunteered himself for the service of the Lord with 200,000. Sounds like he was taking a Nazirite vow there, apparently. From Benjamin, Eliada, a valiant soldier with 200,000 men armed with bows and shields. Next, Jehozabad, with 180,000 men armed for battle. These are the men who served the king, besides those he stationed in the fortified cities throughout Judah. Now, Jehoshaphat Jehoshaphat had great wealth and honor, and he allied himself with Ahab by marriage. So he married Ahab's daughter. This is going to become a major problem later on. We'll get to that next time when we go through our reading. But just keep that in mind. Jehoshaphat has married into the house of Israel by taking one of Ahab's daughters as his wife. And this is going to cause major problems going forward. Right now, though, we still have Ahab to deal with. Ahab is still around. Some years later, he went down to visit Ahab in Samaria, his father-in-law. Ahab slaughtered many sheep and cattle for him, and the people with him, and urged him to attack Ramoth Gilead. Ahab, king of Israel, asked Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, "Will you go with me against Ramoth Gilead?" Yes. Is that your answer? Is that yes or no? How do I interpret that? What is that supposed to be, Pat? Is that a yes or a no? Should Ahab go with Jehoshaphat, or excuse me, should Jehoshaphat go with Ahab to attack Ramoth Gilead? Okay, so now we're going to go back to the First Kings account of this. I had to read that chapter in 2 Chronicles to set the stage for Jehoshaphat's introduction into the story, because Kings doesn't get around to that until later. So that helps provide the context for who Jehoshaphat is and where he came from and what he's doing here with Ahab in this last chapter of 1 Kings. 1 Kings 22. For 3 years there was no war between Aram and Israel, for parts of 3 years at least. Maybe not 3 whole years, but for parts of 3 years. There was no war between Aram and Israel. They had a treaty after all. But in the 3rd year, Jehoshaphat, so now we know when this happened. That incident recorded at the beginning of 2 Chronicles 18 doesn't really get a date, but now we know when this is going to happen here. It's in the 3rd year of this peace treaty between Aram and Israel. This is also going to be the end of Ahab. In the 3rd year, this is 853 BC, by the way. We have dated Ahab's last year to 853 BC. So that's the time frame we're talking about here. But in the 3rd year, Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, went down to see the king of Israel. Now, going down, we think of going down in terms of going down the map, which means going south. Judah, of course, is south of Israel, so he's going north. So we would call that going up. But Judah is, the elevation of Jerusalem is higher. So he's going down literally in terms of he's going down a mountain. He's going down elevation-wise. The king of Israel had said to his officials, this is before Jehoshaphat got there, "Don't you know that Ramoth Gilead belongs to us, and yet we are doing nothing to retake it from the king of Aram?" So apparently Aram, Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, did not give back Ramoth Gilead, which I suppose was one of the towns he said he was going to get back. We didn't really hear a specific list of towns at the end of chapter 20 that Ben-Hadad agreed to give back to Israel. But I presume Ramoth Gilead was one of them, or at the very least, Ahab understood it to be one of them. This is one of those towns on the east side of the Jordan River in that part of Israel that the tribe settled in, east of the river. So, he wants this town back, and he hasn't gotten it back yet. He thinks he should have. King of Aram didn't, he spared his life. He was going to get this towns back, but he hasn't gotten this one back, and he wants this one back. So, he asked Jehoshaphat, this is what I have to put up with. This is just the sort of thing I have to put up with every day. Every day I have to put up with this. Unlike having kids in the house, these cats never grow up. They never stop doing annoying things. Kids you can eventually train to do other things. If you have a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, eventually they won't be 2, 3, 4, or 5. They'll grow up and they'll stop behaving quite so annoyingly. These cats never do that. They stay like this always. I can never get them to change. Very annoying. Very, very annoying. So anyway, back to the story. So he asked Jehoshaphat, "Will you go with me to fight against Ramoth Gilead?" Jehoshaphat replied to the king of Israel, "I am as you are, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. I think, now we're going to read more about Jehoshaphat next time. Jehoshaphat seems to have believed that he could reunite the two split houses of Israel through marriage. Well, I don't know this exactly, but again, we'll read about it more when we read through the account. This is still the account of Ahab. We haven't really gotten to Jehoshaphat yet. He's here, but we haven't really gotten to him yet. It seems as though he thought he could reunify Israel by marrying into the royal family of Israel and combine the royal families, and by doing so, combine the countries into one again. It seems that way. At any rate, he wants to work with Ahab. He wants to be on the side of Israel. He's a vassal king, probably. They read about how powerful he was in 2 Chronicles. But he seems to have willingly put himself in the role of vassal king to Ahab, possibly out of some misguided desire to reunify the split kingdoms through marrying into the royal family, intermarrying the royal families of the two kingdoms. It does not work. If that is his plan, it does not work. And it will end up resulting in disaster and a very dark time in Judah's own history. But that seems to be what's going on here, but it's hard to say exactly. So anyway, he wants to do this. He does want to do this, but he also said to the king of Israel, first, let us seek the counsel of the Lord. He wants to know the word of the Lord before he wants to do this, but he wants to know the word of the Lord first. I presume he won't go into battle if the Lord doesn't tell him to. His desire is to do so, but if that's not the Lord's desire, then he won't do so. I guess. I'm assuming that at least. So the king of Israel brought together the prophets, about 400 men. Remember those 400? I don't know if these are the same 400. I mean, obviously the prophets of Baal were slaughtered, but the prophets of Asherah weren't. I don't know if these are the same 400 or not. It's probably 400 guys who claim to be prophets of Yahweh. It's probably who that is. But who knows? And asked them, shall I go to war against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I refrain? Go, they answered, for the Lord. Now this is L-O-R-D, Lord. This is Adonai, Lord, not L-O-R-D, capital Lord, which is Jehovah, Lord. This is just the Lord, the Master. This is not Jehovah, God, covenant God of Israel, Lord. This is lowercase L-O-R-D, Lord. Go, they answered, for the Lord will give it into the king's hand. But Jehoshaphat asked, is there not a prophet of the Lord, this is capital L-O-R-D, Jehovah, Lord, here, whom we can inquire of? The king of Israel answered Jehoshaphat, there is still one man through whom we can inquire of the Lord, but I hate him. My soul hates him. I hate that guy. I don't like him at all, because he never prophesies anything good about me, but always bad. He is Micaiah, son of Emiah. Not Elijah. Elijah's son. Ahab just can't just snap his fingers and get Elijah to show up whenever he wants him to. Okay, he can't just ask Elijah whatever he wants, whenever he wants to. But he can't ask this guy. God did, in addition to Elijah, we haven't read about this guy before. This Micaiah guy we haven't read about before. Okay. So in addition to Elijah and the unnamed prophet of chapter 20, who probably wasn't Micaiah, probably, God left Ahab a prophet, Micaiah, to speak his word to him whenever Ahab needed to hear it spoken. You know, whenever Ahab wanted to inquire of the Lord, God gave him someone he could do that through. The king should not say that, Jehoshaphat replied. So the king of Israel called one of his office officials and said, bring Micaiah, son of Emiah, at once. Dressed in their royal robes, the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, were sitting on their thrones at the threshing floor by the entrance of the gate of Samaria, with all the prophets prophesying before them. Now Zedekiah, son of Kenana, had made iron horns, and he declared, this is what the Lord, capital L-O-R-D, Lord, says. With these iron horns, you will gore the Arameans until they are destroyed. Horns were a sign of strength in this day and time. So he's going to use a sign of strength to show that they're going to gore the Arameans until they're destroyed. All the other prophets are prophesying the same thing. Attack Ramoth Gilead and be victorious, they said, for the Lord, capital L-O-R-D, Lord, will give it into the king's hand. The messenger who had gone to summon Micaiah said to him, Look, as one man, the other prophets are predicting success for the king. Let your word agree with theirs and speak favorably. You know where Micaiah is right now? He's in prison. They didn't actually say this earlier, but that's where he is. So the Lord has sent this prophet to Ahab to be, on call for Ahab. Whenever Ahab desires to inquire of the Lord, Ahab responded by locking this guy up in prison. This guy, this official, this captain of the guard, whoever he is, thinks he's doing Micaiah a favor by giving him this advice. Just go along to get along. Just say what they want you to say. Just tell them what they want to hear, and maybe they'll even let you out of prison. He's trying to give Micaiah some advice. But Micaiah said, As surely as the Lord lives, I can tell him only what the Lord tells me. When he arrived, the king asked him, Micaiah, shall we go to war against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I refrain? Attack and be victorious, he answered, for the Lord will give it into the king's hand. The king said to him, How many times must I make you swear to tell me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord? I'm assuming Micaiah's first response was stated very and noticeably sarcastically, to the point where Ahab knew he was just teasing him or making fun of him. Then Micaiah answers. Here's his real answer. Here's his actual reply. I saw all Israel scattered on the hills like sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord said, These people have no master. Let each one go home in peace. That means the king of Israel is going to die. He's the shepherd. He's the master. The sheep don't have a shepherd. The people don't have a master. So that means there is no king. He's going to die. Each one of the soldiers is going to go home in peace, but Ahab is going to die. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Didn't I tell you that he never prophesies anything good about me, but only bad? Micaiah continued,